My name is Christina Her, and I will be host today. This is the webinar in our series of in-depth webinar focused on the key themes featured of the SDL Tridion Site 9 content management offering. This webinar will focus on unified extension and the total cost of ownership benefits this particular product feature could provide your customer based on the simplified and automated deployment model. In this session, we will walk through SDL Tridion Site's unified extension offering. There will be particular focus on the following elements: understanding the current challenges when deploying extensions on SDL Tridion sites, how unified extension will simplify the process of deploying multiple extensions in SDL Tridion sites, packaging and deployment add-ons, longer-term vision for this offering. Today's speaker is Lee Khan, and now I will pass you over to Lee Khan to begin this presentation.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Christina. As Christina was mentioning, today's focus, we are going to be looking at unified extensions, a feature that we are working on and is planned to be released with Sites 9. Today's webinar, we will be doing a lot of demos. I don't have much slides actually, so it is going to be fully live demo, and I really hope to the demo gods that everything works out okay. So without further ado, let's start. So what are we trying to actually solve with unified extensions? What we have seen with Tridion is that when you are trying to extend a behavior, you need to extend multiple extension points. Sometimes you might need to extend an event system along with a UI extension to achieve a certain behavior that you want to add to Tridion. Then when you are actually extending these extension points, each of these extension points has a completely different configuration model. Some of them have, if you are talking about the UI, you have editors, models, and then you have event system, which is in a completely different configuration file even with a different way of configuring them. And then if you go to the deployer side, the CD side, that's again completely different. The only thing that's common so far between them is that they are mostly based on XML, but how you configure it, it's completely different. The other thing that we also see is deploying extension in a scaled out system requires a huge orchestration. So a lot of times we have seen issues with customers where a customer complain that we see an issue happening not frequently, every now and then. And after a lot of investigation, it turns out that the extension has been properly configured in one of their scaled out instance, but not in the other one. So all of these issues we are going to be trying to address using unified extensions. And one thing of importance is that, as we all know and believe, that one of the biggest strengths of Tridion is its extension points. We don't want to get rid of them. We want to empower them. So we want to solve these issues so that using extension becomes a lot easier, using and building extensions for it. So how are we trying to solve it? The solution is create a single package for a single behavior, be it a behavior where you need a UI and an event system. All of them are bundled together. It's a single package. Everything is self-contained, including the dependencies. So for example, if you are depending on a version of Newtonsoft.json or some other libraries, you bundle them together in that extension. The extension is self-described, and it includes, as I said, it includes also all the dependencies. So what does it contain? It contains all the dependencies, and it contains whatever is needed for it to function, be it a DLL, be it a jar file, be it some resources. Everything is contained and put into a single package with a description, which we call the manifest. All of these, it's not something that we are inventing. These are all out there. People have package management. We have NuGets, NPMs, and all those. We are trying to build something which is similar to that, but in Tridion. So let's actually see that what happens in action. So as I said, we will be doing a lot of demos. So let's first take a look. I have built an event system extension. What it does, it's pretty simple event system extension. There is nothing really fancy about it. I hope you can read it. So it essentially subscribes to the schema save and checks the title of the schema for a certain word. If that word is in that schema title, it's going to fail the schema by throwing an exception saying, yep, it cannot be saved because it contains an invalid option in there. We're going to get into the details of how everything works, but first actually let's see it working. So I'm going to first build it. Okay. So if we see, this is the zip file that was just created right now. So what we will do is we will jump into the extension management UI, which is, I think you have also seen the sneak peeks on Connect as well, that how we envision our UI to be. So we are building this new extension management UI using the principles that we are planning on using also on the future versions of Tridion. So we'll click Upload Extension Package. So this is my demo folder. And this is the zip file that was just created. Oh, actually, before we upload it, let's actually go into the active system. So this is the system. So let's try to actually create the schema. So the word that I picked, which is blocking the creation, is error. If it just contains error, it's going to block it. Let's just save. So this save is fine. Let's put error here for now. This is still fine. Let me just remove it. Save. Now we will upload the extension. So the extension is now uploaded, and it should be already active in the system, hopefully. Now let me try again. See, cannot save schema as it contains error in the title. It's as simple as that. No more configuration. You don't have to change anything. Go into the UI, upload the extension, and it immediately starts working. And the same way, if we go back to the UI, we select it, we say remove, and it's gone. Again, praying to the demo god, and save. Now it was saved successfully. So let's take a look into what is actually in that extension. Here. So this is a standard event handler code. There is nothing interesting here. What is interesting is this manifest file that I was mentioning earlier. So what we have is, as I mentioned, it's a self-described extension. So you see, it starts with a version. So this is the version of the manifest. So over the period of time, we might actually add, remove stuff. So that's why, sorry, the manifest itself is versioned. This is the version of the add-on that you are building. So if you see it, actually, let's try uploading it back again. Upload extension package. Let's pick this one. You see this version is available here. Then we have a type. These type, again, it's open. We do have all the types for Tridion itself. So we have types for event system, we have types for resolvers, renderers, deployer, and all of those types are predefined. But yeah, it is pretty extensible. It's because it's a string. You can put your own type and use the API to retrieve anything that you would like to do. This min version is the min version of the Tridion product that this extension is can run on. Then we have a set of properties. This properties is an open collection as well, and this varies according to the type. So for example, on an event system type, we have something called a file source. But for example, on an editor, we will have something called a virtual folder. We will look into an editor a bit later. So what happens is, if we actually go and look at that zip file, so this is the zip that was created. Let's actually, let's rename it first, otherwise it's gonna override my solution. Build. Yeah. So if you see this, it contains the DLL that was just created. This is the actual event system DLL and the manifest JSON. And on the manifest JSON, we actually have the assembly file source, that this is the file source that needs to be loaded as an event system extension. And the structure is pretty open. So on the zip file, the manifest JSON is on the root, and anything that you put in, you can actually even create subfolders, which we will also see in the future in a short while. So you can actually create those subfolders and actually have all these references. So for example, when we are mentioning that this is a file, it could have been, let's say, a CM event system slash, but then this DLL should have been inside that CM event system folder. This is all relative source. Now, we saw the structure. So as I said, you can actually create this folder structure, the manifest JSON itself, the properties in there, and you can have multiple of these, as I mentioned. So for example, this is a safeguard, the safeguard extension package using our unified extension model. You see, the name is safeguard. The version, again, this is just 1.7. The type is UI editor, min version 9.0, and then properties. These are the properties that we see already in our normal UI extension. A couple of things are actually new here, you can see. So we have an assemblies folder and a global resource folder. A lot of time, these extensions, when you deploy them, you had to copy some of the bin, some of the DLLs into the bin folder of the web application and the resources as well. But because, as I mentioned, it's a fully self-contained package, you actually include all the assemblies, and you basically specify the location of the assemblies and the resources separately. So then when the unified extension is getting initialized, it can actually probe the right location for the assemblies and the resources. Now, I think we will again do another demo. So the objective is that we will pick up an extension from the App Store and see what does it take to actually convert that into our extension model. So let's copy this link. I'm sorry, it's actually open. So this is the publish from publish queue extension. Download it, version 1.4. Yes. Put it in my demo folder. Okay. Hopefully it should be there. So this is the actual extension. Let's open the install text file. What does it say? So the install instruction, you can see it's so complex. Copy files from here to the Tridion CMS server, set up extension virtual directory, configure extension in the GUI, create these editors. You can see a lot of steps are here. But hopefully with the unified extensions, we're going to solve all of these. So the extension actually resides here. So this is the actual extension. And as far as I remember, this only contains an editor extension. Okay. What I will do is I have actually just a very dummy template I'll copy that template so that I don't have to type a lot of things here. Oh, actually, we should put it probably better one level higher. Come on. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's better. Now let's open this folder. Actually. So we have our manifest JSON. As I said, this is just very dummy template. There's nothing here. We can put the name of the add-on. Doesn't really matter. Let's actually just use this. The model, we don't have a model, so we can delete this section. Okay, this is an editor in version 9. The name is the name of the virtual folder. We can also name it like this. And the relative path of the actual content, that's also this. So that's also fine. Okay. Now the configuration lives here. So we'll have to do this. And configuration. Actually, probably better to type, copy, and then the file name. And this doesn't contain any assemblies or global resources, so we don't need those. You can save this, go back here, and essentially just compress this. Okay. Let's just rename this to a bit nicer name from archive zip. Okay. Now let's try uploading that. So going back to actually let's first confirm on the UI what is there, right? So we open the publishing queue, show task. We see we have a successful publish transaction. That's good. So here we don't see that extension working. Fine. Now, if we go back to our UI and try to upload the extension that we just created, it should be here. So this is our zip that we just created. Now, let's go back. I think I should refresh it just in case. Okay, UI loaded. Okay, show task. And voila, we have it here. You can click on publish. Let's see if it actually works. Show task. And there we go. We have our unpublish action, which was just created using that extension. Now, the nice thing about this is we configure it once. We create, so the developer who actually is creating the extension, he knows how this extension should be configured. We have seen a big documentation. If we go back. So a huge documentation on how to install it. So rather than creating this documentation, the developer takes some time to actually create this manifest, packages it in the right format, and then everybody who is actually consuming this does not need to know how this needs to be configured. Where does it need to be configured? Does it need to be configured in the UI? Does it need to be configured in the publisher? Does it need to be configured in the deployer? Doesn't matter if it is on the CD side or if it is on the CM side, and doesn't matter which extension point, it is going to work. That's the nice thing about it. So we essentially reduce a lot of effort that people are putting to just drag the zip file, put it in there, and it starts working. Now, what we mentioned is that what we have just now seen is it is working on a single instance. I'll try to actually scale the instance to see if it actually works on multi-instance. So let's see. So I'm trying to scale this. It is going to take 5 to 6 minutes to actually bring up a new CME. Let's wait for it for a while. In the meantime, let us actually see. So this was the old one. So this is one of the instances. We can actually see that it should be working here. So we are directly connecting to it without the load balancer. And it is working here. Now let's wait a while for the second instance to come up actually. It takes a while because it needs to reconfigure the system. And let's actually continue in the meantime while it's coming up. So taking a look at what is actually the unified extension, what is the architecture behind it? So what we have is we have the storage for the unified extension. It could be database. It could be your local, or not a local, but a network attached file share, or let's say an S3. So in our cloud stack, we actually deploy it on S3. We can actually see if it is there. Let's see quickly if we can see it. So we are in here. So this is the location where it should have deployed it. And we refresh it. See, the zip files are there. So this is the backing storage. But it also has the database. The database it uses to store the information, because if you see here, we see a lot of information about this. So actually, we can see that this was the extension. We uploaded 2 extensions on the system. And if we open them, we can actually see that we have a CM event system type here. And on the second one, we see that it's an UI editor type. One thing to note is that this is still under development. So for example, we see the status here is disabled. By the release, we expect that not only upload and remove, we also, we will add this ability for you to temporarily disable an extension. So right now, it's not working. The development is in progress. So that's why the status you see is disabled, but in future you can see the status. Not only you will be able to see the status, but what we will also have is we will have information that we actually get back from the instance. So for example, maybe on the publisher, there was an issue on initializing that extension. So when you click this here on an information panel, you will actually be able to see, okay, that machine had an issue loading this extension. And we will also have icons highlighting whether if it was successfully loaded everywhere, or is it a warning, or was it not loaded in some places. All of this information we will get back here. And that's why we need a database storage along with the location where you want to store the actual zip file. The actual zip file could also be stored just on a database or on an S3 or anywhere you would like. In front of that, we have a service. Actually, we can probably look at that service as well. Let's go here. I forgot the URL. Yeah, this is the one. So you can actually see this is, again, as I said, it's in progress. So it is a REST API with a Swagger definition. So you can generate clients of it to actually do operations on it using something else, or programmatically doing something on this. So that's also possible because this is just a simple REST API. And you can see you can do add-ons. You can get a specific add-on, delete, get, and this API is going to be getting more and more rich over the time. Going back, let's quickly check if our machine is up. So we have something. Okay, so now we have the second instance up and running. Let's actually go and take a look at that. Let's see. So this is the one that we were running earlier, okay? This is not the old one. Yeah, so this one just came up 2 minutes ago. So we want to get into that one. So this is the IP address. Let's copy that. Hopefully, the second instance also has the extension fully configured. It's loading the UI for the first time, so it is doing a lot of compilation on the TLR code. Just bear with me for a sec. Okay, let's click Publish Queue. Let's see if the extension is working here. And voila, we have the extension without really doing anything on the new instance. We have the extension here working fully. Yep, that is our published transaction. Now, going back. So, as I mentioned, we have the backing storage, we have the service, and we have all these consumers of the service. So these consumers are the actual extension points. So we have the event system, editor, model, deployer, and all the extension points that we support. They are the consumer. They talk to the service, retrieve information, and configures the extension themselves, downloads the packages, puts them in the right location, and whatever needs to be done, it is done by the system itself. So for example, for the UI editor and model, the mapping for the virtual folders and whatnot, those all are done behind the scene. You can actually ask that, why is it like that? One of the reasons is that we decided to make all the extension or keep all the extension points as same as possible with the current ones, so that the example that we just saw, that we can download or we can basically repackage any of the extensions out there into this new model, and it's just going to work. So that's why the actual underlying configuration, and most of them, they are similar. It's not really different. It's just represented in a different way. So we have the list of extension points that we support. It's pretty much all the extension points that we have in our system: a batch, event system, publisher, renderer, resolver, transport, templating, all of the ones that we have right now. Now with this, we do have a issue about configuring this extension. So for example, if you create an extension which actually connects to an external system, for example, let's say to sync your data or to pull your product information into Tridion, you would need that URL and or the credentials in the for the extension to actually properly work. And you might have a different set for your development environment. You have a different configuration for your test, acceptance, and production. So how we are trying to deal with the configuration for now, and this is not complete, so this is still in flux and being developed. So if you see here, we have the manifest JSON, and in the manifest JSON, I have this configuration called error. So right now, I can essentially just say fail, and then let me delete the files first, just in case. Okay, actually, then I should have probably changed the version as well. Let me actually change that. So let's remove this. Let's go back. Change the version to, let's say, 1.1. See, now this is version 1.1. Hopefully, if we go back to our application and open this up, we should be able to now save with error. Yes, but we should not be able to save with, what did I say actually? Fail. Okay. Yeah, so now this is changed. So right now the configuration is in the manifest, which means that the manifest, you still need to repackage the extension. So most of the things are going to be same, but you still need to repackage the extension. But the idea is that this configuration we will be able to override using environment variables, which means that when you are running it on a dev, you can just have the dev configuration into your environment variables and then pick it up. And then, so essentially, it's just following the standard, let's say, this is based on .NET Core configuration model. So, and then we have a pipeline. The first one in the pipeline is that file, and the next one in the pipeline is the environment variable. So you can actually override anything with the environment variable that has a precedence. So anything that you override on the environment variable will have will be picked up rather than that's what's on the file. So using that, using the same package, you would be able to run it with different configurations between your dev, test, and acceptance and production environments. And that's about it. Let's go back. This is actually the backend configuration. So it's just a sample configuration of the unified extension itself. This is again in flux. This is not concrete, but this is just showing that how you configure the S3 as a backing storage or NFS as a backing storage. So you can configure both of them, or not both actually, either of them. But yeah, we will have more support, and this is also going to be changing. So this is not really something which is 100% concrete, but this is sort of the idea that on the unified extension service, you configure your backing storage. You say, okay, what is is it an S3 provider, or is it a network file storage, or is it a database? You configure it like that, and it works. And then the client has the location, the address of the unified extension service, and they retrieve it from the service. So the actual storage is abstracted from all the clients. And I guess that's about it. Or Oh yeah, we actually didn't finish that demo of the second machine, or did we? No, we did that. We did look at the second machine, right? Yes, we did look at the second machine. And if you actually see, the same event system extension as well is going to be working here. So we can just actually, oh, this is locked. Just give me a sec because I have to unlock it from the other window that I've opened. So let's say close. And change, save. This should be fine. And fail. That's the keyword now. Yeah, this fails. And this is going to work across all the instances. Doesn't matter how many instances you have running because they are all talking to the same unified extension service. They are all using the same packages and they are all using the same configuration. And that's about it. So I'll open the floor for questions.
Okay, thank you for presenting today. Now we are going to open up the Q&A session. If you have any questions, please enter your question into the Q&A box on the right-hand corner of your screen. And we have one question.
Yeah. So I see a question from John. That's a very nice question. And as I mentioned, John, all the extension points are going to be supported. The list that I just showed are the extension point that has been implemented so far, but indeed the cartridge, that's going to be supported along with the deployer extension. So you will be able to deploy everything from one package. If the idea is that you package an extension per behavior. So if your behavior requires a cartridge, then it should be in that same package. Sometimes you might have, for example, it might be, I might have a extension which has a UI extension, right? We have an editor model for it. We have an event system for it. We have a deployer extension for it. And we have a cartridge for it. So then all of those four will be in that same package, but just using different types. So here we will have editor, UI model, event system, deployer, and a cartridge. I hope that answers your question.
Okay. And next question we have, will the extension screen be integrated in the UI Content Manager Explorer, for example, as one of the sidebar items?
Yes, the UI will be available on the Content Manager Explorer. But yeah, it is just gonna, how to say it, it's just gonna look a bit different because yeah, this is the new UI interaction or the UX flow and design that we are going for. But the entire Tridion sites is gonna still stay with the old model. So we will have a mix, but yeah, it is gonna be available.
Okay, I think those are all the questions we have today. If there's no more questions, okay, we have one more.
Yeah, so indeed, there is plan to replace Anguilla. I think Philip already shared sort of a brief look into it in the Connect. So we will be replacing Anguilla, and this is the new UX design, and so the UI design and interaction that we are going to be following from now on. And this is indeed a sneak peek into what's coming.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Yeah, that's all. So that is end of questions today, I think, and I'm going to wrap it up today. So thank you very much, Lekan, and thank you for attending our webinar. We hope it is useful and informative to you, and we look forward to sharing the webinar recording with you shortly. So have a great rest of the day. Thank you.